All right, we're here with Bronwyn Bishop, former Speaker of the House and Sky News contributor. One of the hopes of the side in the Senate is none other than the great Libertarian, the free thinker that he is, David Leyonhjelm from the Liberal Democrats. Jane Hume, another hope for the side, God love you. Keeper in the Senate in Victoria for the Liberal Party, and Claire March. Always great to talk to you from Hawker Britton in Melbourne. Bronwyn, I'll start with you. What do you think? Prime Minister's finally going to go to the Northern Territory. He'll at least talk to the Mayor, but it's a start, but I think they had to let off that flare today to get him to move.
Well, look, it's a fair comment to say that because he has the power, but let's get it straight. The comments that were made by Shifty Shorten was that, in fact, rape of Aboriginal children is cultural and that Aboriginals should be able to do as they wish and their culture determines. Wrong. There is one law in this country, and one law only for all Australians, and that is that you do not rape children. It is a crime and it is punishable. But we seem to have this attitude, this talk fest that says, no, 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 culture must come first over children. Well, no, and Shorten has to be held accountable for that. Now, you can say that Malcolm Turnbull could have said, look, we had this Royal Commission into the sexual abuse of children. Why don't we just give them a new reference into child abuse in the Northern Territory? That's not too hard. But I don't want to see this glib reference that is made about culture is supreme. Let it get away with. It is the most evil statement that Shorten could possibly have made. No. So stop it, and it's got to stop now. And maybe we need some laws about it. Well,
that's fair. Senator Leyonhjelm, again, this is one of those things where, I mean, we're both small government guys, but there is a failure endlessly when the society doesn't save the kid from the house where it's a danger, and that's where my rage goes. I want a kid born in Tennant Creek. It's not sophistry, it's serious. I want a kid born in Tennant Creek one day to grow up to be the Prime Minister. It's not going to happen if they continue in the situation they're in.
Yeah, absolutely right. The cause is really very valid. I rant and rave every year at the closing the gap nonsense that goes on. They're not closing the gap. They'd rather have a treaty, all the symbolic claptrap that goes with wearing the pin and the sorry days and all those sorts of nonsense. They're all just virtue signalling. My only concern about this issue, and I think I disagree with you a little bit, sure, is pointing the bone at the Prime Minister. And I'm not particularly defending Malcolm per se, but ultimately legal responsibility rests with the Territory Government. This is a failure of quite a lot of people in the administration of the Northern Territory, and it goes right up to the Minister. The Prime Minister is not personally responsible. He can't personally fix it either, although in the case of the Don Dale thing, he called a Royal Commission quite quickly, as a matter of fact. But I mean, that gives a misleading impression of his responsibility. He's the leader of the federal government.
Sure.
And he's not a dictator. He's not the Messiah. He's not even a naughty boy.
The Northern Territory is a territory. It's not a state. It is not sovereign. It is subject to the overriding powers of the Commonwealth.
Well, yes, it is, but it's also self-governing. It has a parliament, has an elected representations,
but it is
and
not
they have,
sovereign.
and they pass their own laws about child protection.
An awful lot of money.
But it can be overridden by the federal government, as was done with regard to euthanasia.
Well, of course, but my situation is that the reason that you know, I'll point the bone at the Prime Minister is that when you want to use the bully pulpit, as it's called in the United States, if you want to draw certain attention to things, the power of the office can do that. And when the Territory has failed so spectacularly that no one's even lost their job over this stuff, that's where, again, it's not about, you know, Prime Minister direct responsibility to, you know, a house, any house in Australia, but just about speaking about it with the same sense of rage that any Prime Minister does about, pick an issue. I mean, Claire, this is a cause close to your heart because you worked for a very long time in the NT. What do you think of what the NT News did today, making it very specific to the Prime Minister, and the fact that the Prime Minister has now been shamed into, who cares how he gets there, there'll be at least a conversation with a local mayor about what the heck is the next bit?
I think it was a terrific front page and definitely part of the solution, not the problem. I have to say, though, Bronwyn Bishop, your comments just there, using child protection to make a cheap political point.
There's nothing cheap about a child's life.
No,
nothing cheap at all.
Oh, don't save that indignation for me for a second, because what you did just then just undermined your own experience within government. You undermined the intent of Bill Shorten's words and the current situation that we're in. Absolutely. I want to move on to the problem and the question, if you may. So, look, we've seen this happen before. This is the same problem happening again and again and again, but this time it's different, and different for really important reasons. For the first time, we now have the Northern Territory government saying that they want the federal government to be an equal partner with them, on child protection. And that was a promise that they took to the election. They sought a mandate on that. They now have a mandate. What makes this different again in history is that we now have bipartisanship from Bill Shorten, who said he wants a bipartisan summit with all of the experts around the table and has invited Turnbull. And that's what makes this different. And we cannot let Turnbull get away with this opportunity, this historic opportunity, that to, for once, stop the tide here of disadvantage and for once and for all do something about this problem. Bronwyn,
have a summit and it'll all be solved. I don't think so.
All right, so let's... Sorry, Senator Hume, just because I want to round it off. We could go all night, we should go all night, but, there are a million other things I want to get to here. Senator Hume, again, do you think that to make it specific about one government official is too much? But the truth is, they get the result after setting off that flare. They're getting a level of action from the highest office in the land.
Well, I think the Northern Territory News certainly did set off a flare. You set off a flare. You've been talking about this for a month. I've sat at this desk with you and spoken about this for months, so I know how important this is to you in particular. And full credit to you for doing that. I will say, though, David has a very good point. More than $6 billion has gone to the Northern Territory government specifically to deal with Indigenous disadvantage since 1999. $2 billion of that has disappeared into the ether somehow. Only $4.2 billion is accounted for. Now, throwing money at the problem is not the issue. According to Bill Shorten, coming in all paternalistic white fella is not the solution either. Thank goodness we have some sensible voices here. I heard Jacinta Price speaking on this issue earlier this evening with Peter Credlin. Warren Mundine is obviously speaking out. We now have some action, and look, you probably haven't seen the Prime Minister behind closed doors on this issue, but he is outraged. He is infuriated, and he does want something done. It does matter. It matters to all of us. It matters to all Australians, and not just politicians.
No, understand. All right, let's move on.